Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Professor Gerhardt, has there ever been an impeachment process launched in the middle of a government shutdown?
No.
Well, why did the Office of Legal Counsel opine that there must be a vote of the full House before a committee launches into an impeachment investigation? Why did Speaker McCarthy insist on it and, in fact, say that there would be one in this case?
I think the Office of Legal Counsel said that, at least in part, because an impeachment inquiry is deadly serious. It is, again, just about the most serious thing any House committee ever undertakes. And one safeguard against a committee acting on the basis of just, let's say, the party membership is to ensure that the full House is behind the impeachment inquiry.
A dozen of our colleagues on the Republican side have already called for impeachment. I'm struck by the fact that of the 4 expert witnesses brought together today, not a single one of them argued that a sufficient quantum of evidence exists today to justify the impeachment of President Biden. Is there any precedent in our country for launching an impeachment inquiry absent evidence of wrongdoing by the president?
No. And in fact, I would just point out that with Richard Nixon and Bill Clinton and President Trump in 2019, the full House authorized those impeachment inquiries.
Lev Parnas sent us a letter in which he said, it was addressed to Chairman Comer, in which he said, the narrative you are seeking for this investigation has been proven false many times over by a wide array of respected sources. There is simply no merit to investigating this matter any further. And he says, please abandon this effort to investigate the Bidens, which is nothing more than a wild goose chase. And he was Rudy Giuliani's right-hand man, gallivanting all over the world to try to put together a case back in 2019 that Joe Biden had done something wrong. Do you agree that, given that the evidence we've looked at over the 8 months comes down to this discredited Burisma conspiracy theory, we should hear from those responsible for concocting the story in the first case, in the first place, specifically Lev Parnas and Rudy Giuliani?
Absolutely.
What did you think about the fact that the very first act of the committee in its impeachment investigation was to reject the idea of subpoenaing Lev Parnas and Rudy Giuliani, who are at the heart of the story that's the basis for impeachment?
I think if there's going to be an investigation into the president, all the evidence, that is to say, all the participants, anyone that has knowledge, should be spoken to.
We have lots of colleagues on this committee and off the committee who've called for the impeachment of Joe Biden, who also voted against impeaching Donald Trump for inciting a violent insurrection against the Union. And hundreds of people have gone to jail in subsidiary acts under the umbrella of that insurrectionary process. Now, can you come up with a theory that it would allow someone to say, I am going to vote to impeach Joe Biden for offenses unstated and evidence unknown, but I will oppose and vote against the impeachment of Donald Trump for inciting a violent insurrection against the Union, which is something that concurrent bipartisan majorities voted for in the House and the Senate?
I cannot, and I might just add as a law professor that one of the things I suggest to my students in trying to assess the constitutionality of any governmental action is to take the names out, switch the names or switch the political parties and see if the outcome is the same.
So if Joe Biden had incited a violent insurrection against the Union and said, you go and fight like hell, and if you don't, you won't have a country anymore, would you consider that in the ensuing mayhem and chaos
Absolutely.
To be an impeachable event?
Absolutely.
Or not? To your mind, in applying the law to the facts, have you seen any evidence that Joe Biden has done anything remotely comparable to what Donald Trump did, which earned him his impeachment in the bipartisan vote of the House?
I have not, and I also just might add, with all due respect, I heard the phrase Biden family many, many times, but that doesn't. I don't know who the Biden family is. I don't know who's being referenced when people talk about the Biden family.
Thank you, Professor Gerhardt. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move for unanimous consent to introduce Lev Parnas's July 18th, 2023 letter to you and to me and to the rest of the committee into the official record of this proceeding.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair now recognizes the chairman of the House